Welcome to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. The Bible tells one big story of redemption, and we want to spend 5 minutes every day journeying through the Bible from start to finish and exploring how all of it points to Jesus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to A Year in the Bible with Daily Grace. My name is Jenny, and today we are looking at Joshua 10 through 12. Yesterday, we witnessed the beginning of the conquest of the rest of the Promised Land. We also saw that God is faithful even when his people aren't. Today, we will see how God continues to be faithful as he delivers other territories of the Promised Land to the Israelites. Joshua 10 opens with an incredible, almost unbelievable story where the sun stands still. But before we get to that, we need to set the stage for this incredible event. The backdrop of this story is the battle at Gibeon. We see 5 of the Amorite kings are attacking Gibeon because, as you may remember from yesterday, Gibeon made peace with Israel. So the Gibeonites, in their distress, sends word to Joshua and pleads for the Israelites to help them. In response, Joshua takes his best men to fight against the Amorites. As he heads out to battle, the Lord tells Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, for I have handed them over to you. Not one of them will be able to stand against you." God's promise to Joshua leads to the climax of this story, where Joshua prays for the sun to stand still. And, as you already know, it does. In fact, God delivers more than an answer to Joshua's prayer. He also throws the Amorites into a confusion and sends a hailstorm that kills more Amorites than the Israelites killed with their swords. Before we wrap up our discussion on this section, let's revisit this whole thing about the sun standing still. It is important to note that scholars disagree on what it means for the sun to stand still. Some believe that the original Hebrew language denotes a solar eclipse and that the darkness aided Joshua. Some believe that the earth stopped spinning, while others still believe that this passage should be interpreted poetically. Ultimately, the one thing that we know for sure is that God is all-powerful. He answered Joshua's prayers and delivered the Israelite enemies into their hands. And once again, God proves that he is faithful. Now, moving on to chapters 11 and 12. These chapters detail how the northern and southern kingdoms of Canaan were conquered, along with a list of all the conquered kings. This section may be a little confusing to read because Moses is mentioned as conquering the territory east of Jordan. And as you may remember, Moses died at the beginning of Joshua. However, this section should be read like a State of the Union address, rather than a chronological description. So when Moses is mentioned, that does not mean that he is still alive or somehow raised from the dead. Rather, it describes how some of the land was conquered before God handed Jericho over to the Israelites. Regardless of when these cities were conquered, one truth remains. God is faithful to his promises. And while Moses and Joshua were good leaders to the Israelites, they were not the saviors of Israel. Instead, they point us to Jesus. Jesus is the one who will deliver us completely. And he does this by taking on our sin and dying on the cross so that we can know God and spend eternity in the ultimate promised land with him. We can also apply the lessons from this story to our lives today. Just as the Lord fought for Israel and answered Joshua's prayers, he will fight for you and answer your prayers. Hebrews 4:16 encourages us to approach the throne of grace with boldness, so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in time of need. So go boldly before the Lord, and he will fight for you and give you mercy and grace. Thanks so much for joining me today. Be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Daily Grace Podcast and The Daily Grace Co. and check out our website, thedailygraceco.com, for all kinds of resources to help you dive deeper into God's Word. On the website, you can find our Story of Redemption study to accompany this podcast and the Story of Redemption journals that have dedicated journaling space for every chapter of the Bible. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow.